Before we begin, a quick disclaimer. This video presents my analysis and opinions on SAT preparation strategies based on my experience as a tutor and my review of available resources. The SAT is a standardized test, but every student is different. The results and score improvements discussed are not guaranteed and will vary based on individual effort, starting score, and study methods. This presentation is for informational and educational purposes only, and is not a substitute for personalized academic advice. Khan Academy is the single biggest reason why most students fail to reach their target SAT score. Now that is a massive claim, and I know it sounds completely insane. We're talking about the official partner of the College Board, the free high-quality resource that your guidance counselor, your teachers, maybe even your parents have told you is the golden ticket. And for good reason. On the surface, it looks perfect. You link your College Board account, it instantly analyzes your past performance, and it spits out a personalized study plan with thousands of practice questions. It feels like you've been handed a custom-built key to unlock your dream score. I get it. I remember being a junior in high school, staring at my SAT score report, and feeling that pit in my stomach. The number on the page was nowhere near what I needed for the colleges I was dreaming of. The gap seemed impossible to cross. And just like you, I was pointed directly to Khan Academy. I spent an entire summer grinding away. I answered thousands of questions. I watched hundreds of videos. I filled notebooks with practice problems. I did everything the platform told me to do. My skills on the dashboard slowly ticked up from level 2 to 3 to 4. I was making progress, right? Then I took my next official practice test, and my score had barely moved. It went up maybe 20 points. 20. After hundreds of hours of work. I was devastated. I felt stupid. I felt like maybe I just wasn't a good test taker, and that my dream schools were slipping away. But it wasn't my fault. And if you're in the same boat, it is not your fault either. You haven't failed the system. The system has failed you. Because Khan Academy, despite all its promises, is built on a fundamental critical flaw. It's a flaw that keeps millions of hardworking students stuck, frustrated, and far below their true potential. In this video, we are going to dissect that flaw. We are going to pull back the curtain on why the official prep method is dangerously incomplete. I'm not just going to tell you it's not enough. I'm going to show you section by section, question by question, exactly where it falls short and what you need to do to fix it. We're going to transform your entire approach to this test. By the end of this video, you will understand not just the weaknesses of Khan Academy, but how to build a comprehensive study system that actually delivers massive score improvements. This is the information I wish someone had given me before I wasted an entire summer. So what is this giant fatal flaw? It's this: Khan Academy is a phenomenal diagnostic tool, but it is a terrible teacher of strategy. Let me repeat that. It is great at telling you what you don't know. It is terrible at teaching you how to solve problems when you're under pressure, confused, or running out of time. It gives you a diagnosis, but it doesn't give you the medicine. Imagine going to the doctor. You tell them your symptoms, they run some tests, and they come back and say, "Congratulations, you have a bacterial infection." And then they just walk out of the room. You'd be like, "Wait, what do I do? What's the prescription? How do I get better?" That is exactly what using only Khan Academy feels like. It tells you, you're weak in solving linear equations and inequalities. Great. Now what? The platform's answer is always the same. Here are more practice problems. Here's a 7-minute video explaining the Pythagorean theorem. And you do them, and you watch the video, and you might get the next few questions right. You experience what I call the illusion of progress. You feel like you're learning because you're busy. You're checking boxes. Your skill levels are going up. But you are not building the one thing that separates a good score from a great score: a strategic framework for attacking the test itself. Let's get specific. Let's break this down for the SAT math section. The first major weakness is what I call the content silo problem. Khan Academy teaches you math in neat little boxes. You do a unit on quadratics. Then you do a unit on circles. Then you do a unit on percentages. Each skill is isolated. But that is not how the SAT works. The SAT doesn't test concepts in isolation. It tests them in combination. The hardest questions are designed to look like one type of problem but are secretly another. They'll give you a geometry problem about a circle inscribed in a square. But to actually solve it, you need to use your knowledge of quadratic equations. They'll give you a word problem that looks like it's about percentages, but it's actually a systems of equations problem in disguise. Khan Academy never teaches you how to make these connections. It gives you all the ingredients, the flour, the sugar, the eggs, but it never gives you the recipe. It never teaches you how to combine them to bake a cake. So when you face a weird, unfamiliar question on test day, your brain freezes. You search through your mental filing cabinet of isolated skills, but you can't find the right file because the question doesn't look like the simple, siloed problems you practiced. You end up wasting precious minutes trying to figure out where to even begin. The second, and arguably bigger, problem for SAT math is the strategy vacuum. The SAT is not just a test of your math knowledge. It's a test of your problem-solving strategy under extreme time pressure. There are skills that exist completely outside of traditional math class that are essential for a high score. Skills like backsolving, where you use the answer choices to work backwards, or plugging in your own numbers, a technique that can turn a terrifying abstract algebra problem into simple arithmetic. Or recognizing trap answers, the answers the College Board designed specifically to catch students who make common, predictable mistakes. Where does Khan Academy teach you these things? Doesn't. It will show you the proper, academic way to solve every problem. But the student who gets a 1550 doesn't always solve problems the proper way. They use shortcuts. They use strategies. They know which questions to skip in the first 20 minutes and save for the end. They know how to look at the answer choices before they even start solving to gain a massive clue. Khan Academy operates in a world where you have unlimited time and are expected to be a math robot. The real SAT is a street fight, and Khan Academy is sending you into it with a textbook instead of a battle plan. Now let's turn to the reading and writing section, where the problems are even more severe. For the reading section, Khan Academy is built on the practice makes perfect fallacy. The platform's entire philosophy is, if you just read enough dense, boring passages and answer enough tricky, nuanced questions, you will magically get better. This is fundamentally untrue. For most students, doing more passages without a system is like trying to get stronger by randomly lifting weights with no form. You'll just get tired and maybe even hurt yourself. The explanations on Khan Academy are notoriously unhelpful. You'll get a question wrong, and the explanation will say something like, Choice C is the best answer because it is supported by lines 34 to 37, which state that the author was surprised by the discovery. Choice A is incorrect because the passage does not support this. Thank you, Captain Obvious. It tells you what the right answer is, but it doesn't teach you the process to find it yourself next time. It doesn't teach you a systematic way to read the passage, how to identify the author's main point, tone, and structure on your first read-through. It doesn't teach you how to dissect the question stem to understand precisely what it's asking. It doesn't teach you how to spot the subtle differences between two answer choices that both seem pretty good. Without this methodical approach, you are simply guessing on most questions, and your score will be a reflection of that randomness. And finally, the writing and language section. This should be the easiest section on the entire test to improve, but Khan Academy's approach makes it a nightmare. The platform treats grammar like an academic subject. It gives you endless lists of rules about commas, semicolons, subject-verb agreement, and dangling modifiers. It's overwhelming. But here's the secret. The SAT doesn't test all of English grammar. It tests the same limited set of about 15 to 20 grammar patterns over and over and over again. Things like comma splices, pronoun ambiguity, and parallel structure make up the vast majority of questions. A strategic approach doesn't involve memorizing a grammar textbook. It involves mastering pattern recognition for these core issues. It's about learning to spot the specific clues in a sentence that signal a specific type of error. Khan Academy's one rule at a time approach is incredibly inefficient. It's like trying to learn a language by memorizing a dictionary, instead of learning the 100 most common words and how to structure a sentence. You spend countless hours learning obscure rules about colons that might show up once, while you still haven't mastered the fundamental patterns that are worth 80 points on their own. So let's be crystal clear. I am not saying Khan Academy is useless. It's an amazing free resource for one specific job: identifying your weaknesses. The practice questions are fantastic. The full-length practice tests are pure gold. But it is only one tool. And if it's the only tool in your toolbox, you are setting yourself up for a long, frustrating, and ultimately disappointing journey. It gives you the what, but not the how or the why. It's the starting point, not the finish line. So let's break down that how and why. When you first log into Khan Academy, it feels incredible. You link your College Board account, it imports your SAT scores, and boom, a personalized study plan. It tells you, you're at skill level 2 in Heart of Algebra, let's get you to level 4. You watch a short video, you do a few practice problems, and a little animation plays. You leveled up. It's a shot of dopamine. You feel productive. You feel like you're conquering the test one little skill at a time. This is what I call the Khan Academy honeymoon phase. For the first few weeks, maybe even the first month, you see real progress. Your practice quiz scores go up. You're filling in the gaps in your knowledge. You finally understand how to factor a quadratic or when to use a semicolon. And you think, this is it. This is all I need. It's free, it's personalized, it's from the makers of the test. I've cracked the code. And then you hit the wall. For some people, that wall is a 1250. For others, it's a 1380. For the ambitious few, it's a 1510. But almost everyone who uses Khan Academy exclusively hits a wall. Your score just stops. It stagnates. You might even take a full practice test and see your score go down, which is the most soul-crushing feeling in the world. You're putting in more hours, you're grinding through hundreds of problems, you've maxed out all your skill levels on the dashboard, but your score is stuck in the mud. You're doing everything the platform tells you to do, but nothing is changing. The frustration builds. You start to think, maybe I'm just not smart enough. Maybe this is my limit. I am here to tell you that is not your limit. You haven't hit the ceiling of your ability. You've hit the ceiling of the tool you're using. You've reached the point where knowledge alone isn't enough. Because Khan Academy has a fundamental architectural flaw when it comes to SAT prep. It teaches you the academic content, but it does not teach you the strategy of the test. Think of it like this. Khan Academy is a cookbook. It can teach you how to follow a recipe. It can give you the recipe for baking a cake, the ingredients, the measurements, the oven temperature, the baking time. And if you follow that recipe perfectly, you will bake a decent cake. But the SAT isn't asking you to bake a cake. The SAT is the Great British Bake Off. It puts you in a tent with a box of strange ingredients, a time limit, and asks you to create a masterpiece. A person who has only ever followed recipes from a cookbook will panic. They don't know how to adapt. They don't know why you cream the butter and sugar first, they just know the recipe says to. They don't know how to substitute an ingredient or fix a curdled batter. A real chef, on the other hand, understands the principles. They understand the chemistry of baking. They know how gluten develops, how leavening agents work, how fat and sugar interact. They can improvise, adapt, and overcome. They can create something amazing from any ingredients you throw at them. Khan Academy trains you to be a recipe follower. To get an elite score, you have to become a chef. You have to understand the underlying principles of the test itself. Let's look at the math section. Khan Academy is fantastic at teaching you the Pythagorean theorem. It will give you dozens of problems where you have a right triangle, you're given sides A and B, and you have to find side C. Drill, drill, drill. You become a master of that recipe. But then, on the real SAT, you get a hideous word problem about a city planner mapping out a park with diagonal paths and rectangular fields, and buried in that paragraph of text is a right triangle problem in disguise. The recipe follower freezes. They start trying to set up complex algebraic equations because they don't recognize the simple pattern hidden underneath. The test-taking chef, however, immediately sees the core concept. They aren't just looking for the formula. They're looking for the pattern. More importantly, Khan Academy doesn't teach you the shortcuts that are essential for finishing the test on time. It will always show you the proper, academic way to solve a problem. For example, it will show you how to solve a system of two linear equations using substitution or elimination, a process that can take 60 to 90 seconds. But it will almost never teach you the test-taking strategy of picking your own numbers and plugging them in, which can get you the answer in 20 seconds. It won't teach you how to work backwards from the answer choices, a powerful technique that can turn a terrifying-looking algebra problem into simple arithmetic. The SAT is a race against the clock. The academic, cookbook method is often the slowest and most difficult path to the answer. Relying on it is like bringing a butter knife to a sword fight. It's the right category of tool, but it is completely outmatched by the challenge. But if Khan Academy is weak on math strategy, it is an absolute disaster for the reading and writing section. This is where the cookbook analogy becomes even more powerful. The reading section isn't a test of what you know. It's a test of how you think. There is no formula to memorize. There is no skill level for identifying an author's main point that you can just grind your way through. It is a pure test of logic and reasoning, executed under extreme time pressure. Khan Academy's approach is to have you read a passage and answer questions. If you get one wrong, it will show you a text explanation. The explanation will usually say something like, The correct answer is B because lines 35 to 38 support this idea. Answers A, C, and D are incorrect because they are not supported by the text. And the student thinks, oh, okay, I see it now. But nothing has actually been learned. You haven't learned why you were tempted by answer C in the first place. You haven't learned to recognize the specific, repeatable traps the test makers build into the wrong answer choices. The SAT designs distractors that are masterfully deceptive. There's the true but not the right answer trap. There's the could be true, but not explicitly stated trap. There's the uses keywords from the passage but twists the meaning trap. There's the logically sound but answers the wrong question trap. These are not random. They are engineered with psychological precision to catch you. Your job as a test taker isn't just to find the right answer. It's to systematically identify and eliminate the 3 wrong answers, each of which has a specific poison pill hidden inside it. Khan Academy does not teach you this. It can't. Its platform is built for quantifiable skills, for right or wrong content. It can't teach you the art of navigating ambiguity. It can't sit you down and explain the mindset of the person who wrote the question and how they are trying to trick you. It just shows you the recipe, not the complex culinary science behind the dish. So you do hundreds of reading passages, and you might get slightly better through sheer brute force and familiarity, but you never learn the fundamental system for dismantling the questions. You're just hoping you feel the right answer, which is the most dangerous strategy of all. This leads us to the final, most subtle problem. The partnership between Khan Academy and the College Board feels like a huge advantage, but it's also a trap. Because they have all this data on past tests, the platform is incredibly good at drilling you on the exact types of questions that have appeared on the SAT in the last 5 years. It's a closed loop. College Board makes the test, Khan Academy gets the data, and it trains you on what was just tested. But the test makers at the College Board are not stupid. They know this. They know how students are preparing. And so what do? They evolve. They create new question types, new twists, new ways to present old concepts that will bypass the recipe followers and reward the chefs, the students who have a flexible, principle-based understanding. Preparing for the SAT by only using Khan Academy is like a football team preparing for the Super Bowl by only studying the game film from last year's championship. It's useful, yes, but you're preparing for a fight that has already happened. Your opponent has been in the lab designing new plays all year. They know what you're expecting, and they are going to hit you with something you've never seen before. On test day, when you're faced with a question that doesn't perfectly match the thousands you've drilled, the Khan Academy-only student is the one who panics. Their rigid, recipe-based training crumbles because it was never built on a foundation of true strategic understanding in the first place. It was built on a foundation of mimicry, and the SAT is designed to punish mimicry and reward genuine comprehension. So we've established the problem. Khan Academy gives you the what, the content, the formulas, the grammar rules, but it fails to give you the how, the strategies, the shortcuts, the time management, and the why. The deep understanding of the test logic and the test maker's mindset. It builds a foundation of knowledge but leaves you to build the entire house yourself with no blueprint and no tools. This leaves a massive critical gap in your preparation. The question now is, what fills that gap? What does a true, chef-level preparation system actually look like? How do you move beyond simply knowing the content and start mastering the game of the test itself? That chef-level system, the one that separates the 1300s from the 1500s, isn't about finding some magical, secret resource. It's about a fundamental shift in your entire approach. You stop being a passive student just consuming information, and you become an active strategist, a detective, and an efficiency expert all rolled into one. It's a system built on 3 core pillars, and the first one is the most overlooked and the most critical: the diagnostic blueprint. Now I know what you're thinking. I took a practice test on Khan Academy. I know my score. That's not a blueprint. That's a final grade on a report card. It tells you what happened, but it gives you almost zero information about why it happened. A true diagnostic blueprint is an autopsy of your performance. It's you, with a magnifying glass, analyzing every single mistake you made on a full-timed official practice test. And I don't just mean looking at the right answer and saying, oh, okay, it was C. I mean asking a series of brutal, honest questions for every single incorrect answer. Question 1. Was this a content gap? Did I genuinely not know the underlying math concept like arc length formulas or the grammar rule like subject-verb agreement with a tricky prepositional phrase? So great. That's an easy fix. You circle it, you go to Khan Academy, you learn the rule. That's what it's for. But then you have to ask question 2. Was this a misinterpretation error? Did I know the content but I read the question too fast? Did I solve for X when the question asked for 2X? This is a classic SAT trap. It's a devastatingly simple mistake that has nothing to do with your intelligence and everything to do with your process. You have to categorize this differently. This isn't a knowledge problem. It's a focus problem. Question 3. Was this a time pressure error? Did I rush through this question because I saw the clock ticking down and just guessed? Did I panic and make a silly mistake I would have never made if I had 2 more minutes? This is a crucial category. It tells you that your issue isn't content, it's pacing and mental endurance. And finally, question 4, the most important one, was this a deliberate trap? Did the test writers dangle a juicy, obvious-looking answer in front of me that was designed to catch students who use a superficial understanding of a concept? Did I fall for it? These are the questions where you look at the right answer and feel a pit in your stomach because you realize you were played. You knew the material but you didn't know the game. Creating a spreadsheet or a notebook with these 4 categories: content gap, misinterpretation, time pressure, deliberate trap, for every single error on your first practice test. That is the blueprint. It is the single most valuable document in your entire SAT prep. Because now, you're no longer flying blind. You have a personalized map of your own weaknesses. You know that you don't just need to get better at math. You need to get better at, say, double-checking what the question is actually asking for in geometry problems, or managing your time on the last passage of the reading section. That level of specificity is where real progress begins. This blueprint then completely transforms how you use a tool like Khan Academy. This is the second pillar: strategic content consumption. The average student goes on to Khan Academy, sees the big list of skills and starts grinding. They think, I'll just do a bunch of practice problems until I get good. This is the equivalent of our home cook throwing every ingredient they have into a pot and hoping it turns into a gourmet meal. It's inefficient, it's demoralizing, and it leads to burnout. The student with the diagnostic blueprint does the opposite. They perform surgery. They look at their blueprint and see a recurring pattern of content gaps in problems involving quadratic equations and pronoun antecedent agreement. So what do? They go to Khan Academy and spend 2 focused hours dedicated only to those 2 skills. They watch the videos, do the targeted practice sets, and they don't move on until they feel mastery. They are not wasting a single second on topics they already understand. They are surgically striking their weakest points. They use Khan Academy not as a comprehensive curriculum, but as a high-powered library of resources to cross-reference with their personal blueprint. This approach can save you literally hundreds of hours of wasted effort. But even with a perfect blueprint in surgical content practice, you're still missing the most important piece of the puzzle. This is the third pillar, the one Khan Academy barely touches: the strategy layer. The SAT is not just a test of what you know. It's a test of how you perform under pressure. It's a standardized game with predictable rules, patterns, and traps. And to win the game, you need a playbook. The strategy layer has 3 main components. First, there's advanced time management. Khan Academy's advice is basically, don't spend too much time on one question. That's like telling a basketball player to score more points. It's true, but it's useless. Advanced time management is about understanding the architecture of each section. It's knowing that in the math section, the questions generally go from easiest to hardest. So you should be banking time, moving quickly and confidently through the first third of the section, so you have a reservoir of extra time to invest in the tougher, more complex problems at the end. It's about having an internal clock that tells you when a question is turning into a time-sucking black hole, and having the discipline to skip it and come back later. This isn't an innate skill, it's a trained technique. Second, there's question triage. This is the art of sorting questions in real time. A top scorer doesn't do the test in the order it's given. They are constantly making split-second decisions. This is easy, I'll do it now. This looks hard, I'll mark it and come back. This looks absolutely impossible. I'm going to skip it entirely and make sure I get every other point I can. This requires you to swallow your pride. Your ego wants you to solve every problem, but your score wants you to get the maximum number of points in the time allotted. Learning to identify and skip the 1 or 2 killer problems that are designed to waste your time can be the difference between a 680 and a 750. You are a battlefield medic, not a hero. Your job is to save as many points as possible, not to die on the hill of a single impossible question. And third, there's trap recognition. The College Board has been writing this test for decades. They know the exact mistakes students make, and they build questions to exploit those mistakes. There are classic grammar traps like misleading modification phrases. There are classic math traps like providing an answer choice that would be correct if you forgot to distribute a negative sign. A chef-level system involves actively studying these traps. You start to see the patterns. You read a question and a little alarm bell goes off in your head that says, "Wait a minute, this looks like one of those % problems. I know the common mistake here is to add the percentages instead of multiplying them." You develop an almost sixth sense for the test tricks. Khan Academy can give you the ingredients, the math formulas, the grammar rules, but it doesn't teach you how the test makers will try to poison those ingredients. So you see, the blueprint, the surgical practice, and the strategy layer, these three pillars work together to form a complete system. It's an active, intelligent, and adaptive way to prepare. It reframes Khan Academy from being your entire kitchen into being what it truly is: a world-class, exceptionally well-stocked pantry. It's an indispensable resource for ingredients, but it doesn't come with the recipe book or the master chef's techniques. Now you understand the architecture of a truly effective prep system. You know what's missing. The next logical question, the one we have to answer, is far more practical. How do you actually build this system for yourself? What are the specific day-to-day habits, the tools, and the mindsets you need to implement this three-pillar approach? Especially if you're starting this journey all on your own. Let's build it. Right now. From the ground up. Forget theory. This is your playbook. The first step, the absolute non-negotiable foundation of this entire system, is a proper diagnosis. You cannot start studying until you know exactly where your bleeding points. And I don't mean the little diagnostic quiz on Khan Academy. I mean a full-scale battle simulation timed official practice test. You need to download the College Board's Bluebook app, it's free, and take one of their official digital SAT practice tests. Cold. No studying beforehand. I know it sounds terrifying. You're going to get a score you don't like. That's the entire point. Studying for the SAT without a baseline score is like a doctor prescribing medication without asking about your symptoms. It's malpractice. You'll waste hundreds of hours strengthening skills you've already mastered, while your real weaknesses continue to fester. So you take that first test. You get your score report. And you don't just look at the number. You print it out. You get a red pen and you circle every single question you got wrong. You also put a star next to every question you guessed on, even if you guessed right. This document, this sea of red ink and stars, is not a report card. It's a treasure map. It points directly to where the points are buried. Now we bring in Khan Academy. This is where Pillar 1, foundational knowledge, begins. Let's say your map shows a huge cluster of wrong answers in the advanced math section, specifically with quadratics. Your mission is not to just grind endless quadratic problems on Khan. That's putting the cart before the horse. Your mission is to go to the SAT section on Khan Academy, find the unit on quadratics, and pretend you have never seen one before in your life. You watch the instructional videos. You read the articles. You treat Sal Khan's voice like it's your private tutor, explaining the core concepts from scratch. You only move on to the practice problems once you can explain the why behind the formulas, not just the what. You have to earn the right to practice by first proving you understand the theory. This is the step everyone skips. They jump straight to practice, get frustrated when they get things wrong, and conclude they're just bad at math. You're not bad at math. You just tried to build a skyscraper without laying the foundation. Once that foundation is poured, we move to Pillar 2, targeted practice. This is Khan Academy's bread and butter. This is where it truly excels. After you've relearned the concepts behind quadratics, now you dive into their practice sets. You'll see they have different levels, usually 1 through 4. Your goal is to methodically work your way up. But here's the secret. This is the single most important habit that separates the 1,300 scores from the 1,500 plus club. You need to create a mistake log. It can be a physical notebook or a simple spreadsheet. Every single time you get a question wrong during your targeted practice, you log it. And I don't just mean you write down the question number. That's useless. Your entry for each mistake needs 4 specific parts. First, a brief description of the question. Not the whole thing, just enough to jog your memory, like parabola vertex question. Second, why did you get it wrong? And you have to be brutally honest here. Don't just write silly mistake. Categorize it. Was it a concept gap? You genuinely didn't know the material? Was it a misread? You didn't understand what the question was asking? Was it a calculation error? You knew the concept but messed up the arithmetic? Or was it a time pressure mistake? You knew what to do but rushed and fumbled? Third, What is the correct way to solve it? Write out the step-by-step process. In your own words. Explain it to your future self. Fourth, and this is crucial, what is your specific takeaway? What will you do differently next time you see a similar question? Maybe it's always double-check my negatives, or, when I see the word vertex, I will immediately write down the vertex formula. This mistake log becomes your personal SAT textbook, written by the world's foremost expert on your weaknesses. Reviewing this log is 10 times more valuable than doing another 50 random practice problems, because you're not just practicing, you're actively patching the specific holes in your armor. Khan Academy provides the raw material, an endless stream of questions, but the mistake log is the forge where you turn that raw material into real durable skill. This brings us to Pillar 3, full-length simulation and stamina. Knowledge and practice are useless if you can't perform under pressure for nearly 3 hours. This is where you return to the Bluebook app. You have 4 official digital practice tests. These are gold. Guard them. Don't waste them. The plan is to take one at the beginning as your diagnostic, and then space the other 3 out over the course of your prep, maybe one every 3 or 4 weeks. And when you take one, you treat it like the real thing. This is non-negotiable. You don't do it on your bed at 10 p.m. You wake up on a Saturday morning at the same time you will on test day. You eat the same breakfast you plan to eat. You find a quiet spot, tell your family not to bother you, put your phone in another room, and you take the test in one sitting with only the official breaks. You are training your brain and your body for a marathon. You wouldn't train for a marathon by running 1 mile at a time whenever you felt like it. The SAT is no different. The mental fatigue is real. The only way to beat it is to experience it and adapt. After each of these full-length simulations, the process repeats. The review is just as important as the test itself. It will likely take you longer to review the test than it did to take it. Every single wrong answer, every single guess goes directly into your mistake log. This review session will then inform your targeted practice for the next few weeks. You just took a full body scan of your abilities, and now you have a precise, updated map of where to attack next with Khan Academy. So, what does this look like in a typical week? It's a rhythm. Maybe on Saturday morning you take a full practice test. Saturday afternoon and Sunday you do a deep review and populate your mistake log. From that log, you identify your 2 biggest weak points for the week. Let's say subject-verb agreement and functions. Monday and Tuesday, you're on Khan Academy, hitting subject-verb agreement. You relearn the foundations, then you do targeted practice, logging every mistake. Wednesday and Thursday, you do the same for functions. Friday is a lighter day. You review your entire mistake log from the week, maybe do a mixed quiz on Khan to keep things fresh, and then you rest. You let the information consolidate. Then the next Saturday you're back, either doing targeted practice or after a few weeks, taking your next full-length test. This is the system. It's a feedback loop. Diagnose with a full test, learn the foundations on Khan, practice with Khan while logging your mistakes, and then re-diagnose with another full test to measure progress and find new weaknesses. It's disciplined, it's structured, and it turns Khan Academy from a passive library of content into an active, precision-guided tool in your SAT arsenal. It works. But this system, as powerful as it is, has an inherent vulnerability. It relies entirely on your ability to teach yourself. What happens when you're staring at an entry in your mistake log? You've watched the Khan Academy video 5 times, you've read the article, but you still just don't get it. What do you do when the algorithm can't give you the specific insight you need, that aha moment that unlocks a concept for good? What is the missing piece that a free, automated platform by its very design simply cannot provide? The missing piece is strategy. Not just test-taking tips and tricks, but a deep, personalized understanding of how you think, why you make mistakes, and what specific cognitive habits are holding you back from your goal score. This is something an algorithm, no matter how sophisticated, struggles to provide. Can identify the what, you missed a question about circle theorems, but it can't diagnose the why, that you panicked when you saw the word radian, and your brain shut down, causing you to misread the entire question, even though you actually knew the formula. This leads us to the single biggest limitation of relying solely on Khan Academy: its inability to identify your strategic blind spots. A strategic blind spot isn't a lack of knowledge. It's a flaw in your process. It's a bad habit in your reasoning that you don't even know you have. Khan Academy is brilliant at finding and filling your knowledge gaps. It's like a mechanic who can see you're low on oil and tops it up, but it can't see that the reason you're low on oil is because you have a tiny, hidden leak in a gasket that only drips when the engine is hot and you're driving uphill. That requires a different level of diagnostics. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you're consistently missing medium difficulty algebra questions. You do the Khan Academy practice, watch the videos, and it keeps serving you more problems of that type. The platform's diagnosis is simple. You are weak in medium difficulty algebra. But that's not the real story. A human tutor watching you solve one of these problems might notice something else entirely. They might see that you read the question, correctly identify the concept, write down the right formula, and then make a tiny arithmetic error when distributing a negative sign. You do it over and over, but only when you're under a time crunch. Your strategic blind spot has nothing to do with algebra. It's a habit of rushing your calculations and a specific weakness with negative integers under pressure. Khan Academy can't see this. It just marks the answer wrong and tells you to practice more algebra. You end up rewatching videos on quadratic equations when you should be drilling the multiplication of negative numbers. You're patching the wrong part of the ship. Here's another one for the reading section. You keep getting the inference questions wrong. Khan Academy dutifully gives you more inference questions to practice. You feel like you're just not good at reading between the lines. But the real problem, your strategic blind spot, might be that you're overthinking. You're bringing in too much outside information and making logical leaps the passage doesn't support. You're trying to be a detective in an art museum when the SAT just wants you to be a security guard who can accurately describe what's written on the painting's label. The skill you need to learn isn't how to infer better. It's how to stop yourself from inferring too much. An algorithm can't teach that kind of cognitive restraint. It can't look at your thought process and say, "Whoa, back up. Where in the text did it actually say that?" This is the core of the one-size-fits-all problem. Even with a personalized skin, Khan Academy gives every student who struggles with inference questions the exact same video explanation and the same style of text-based rationale. It assumes the reason for the error is the same for everyone. A fundamental misunderstanding of the concept. But for one student, the issue is overthinking. For another, it's a vocabulary gap. For a third, it's a pacing issue where they didn't have time to find the evidence. The medicine is the same, but the diseases are completely different. This is why so many students experience the dreaded Khan Academy plateau. You know what I'm talking about. You start out, take a diagnostic, and it says you're at a 1250. You grind for a month, fill in those easy-to-fix knowledge gaps, and you shoot up to a 1380. You're ecstatic. The system works. But then you get stuck. For the next 2 months, you're bouncing between 1370 and 1410, and you just can't seem to break through. You're putting in the hours, doing hundreds of problems, but your score isn't budging. This plateau is almost always caused by unidentified strategic blind spots. You've maxed out what the algorithm can do for you. It has successfully filled all the obvious holes in your knowledge. Now the only thing holding you back are those ingrained invisible habits, the way you manage your time, the way you misread questions, the way you second-guess your right answers. And by practicing more on the platform, you might actually be reinforcing those bad habits, digging the trench of that plateau even deeper. You're just running the same flawed software in your brain over and over again. Think of it like this. Khan Academy is the world's greatest fitness app. It can create a personalized workout plan based on your goals, track your progress, show you videos of how to do a deadlift, and tell you how many calories you've burned. It is an incredible tool for getting you 80% of the way there. But if you hit a plateau and your deadlift just won't increase, the app can only tell you one thing. Try to deadlift again. A great personal trainer, on the other hand, can watch you. They can see that your hips are rising too fast, that your back is rounding slightly, and that you're not engaging your lats to keep the bar close to your body. The app sees a failed lift. The trainer sees the 3 specific, correctable flaws in your form that cause the failure. The app can't fix your form. It can't give you that personalized tactile feedback. Squeeze here. Drive your feet through the floor. Keep your chest up. It can't diagnose the root cause of your weakness. Khan Academy is the app. It can tell you that you failed the lift. It cannot fix your form. It can't analyze your unique mental process and provide the specific, tailored feedback needed to shatter that score plateau. And this has a huge psychological impact. When you're stuck on that plateau, it's so easy to feel defeated. You start to internalize it. You think, well, I guess a 1400 is my ceiling. I'm just not a 1500 level student. That belief is poison. Because the problem isn't your intelligence or your potential. It's your strategy. But because the platform can't articulate that to you, you're left to assume the problem is you. This is where the free tool becomes incredibly costly. It can cost you your confidence. It can convince you to settle for a score far below what you're actually capable of achieving. The platform is designed to be a self-serve tool. But breaking through the toughest barriers in SAT prep is rarely a self-serve job. It requires an outside perspective. It requires a diagnosis not just of the wrong answers but of the thinking that led to them. So if Khan Academy is the ultimate diagnostic tool, the perfect X-ray of your academic knowledge, but an incomplete coach, how do you find that personal trainer? How do you move from simply identifying your weaknesses to systematically dismantling the bad habits that are truly holding your score hostage? What does that next level of preparation actually look like? Well, that next level of preparation looks like the difference between knowing the rules of a game and knowing how to win it. It's the chasm between content knowledge and strategic application. And this, right here, is the single most important distinction you need to understand about the SAT and Khan Academy's role in preparing for it. Khan Academy is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful content knowledge engines ever created. It is your ultimate textbook. If you don't know a grammar rule, it will teach you. If you've forgotten how to factor a polynomial, it will show you step by step. It fills the gaps in your academic foundation with surgical precision. But the SAT isn't just a test of your academic foundation. It's a standardized test, which means it's a performance. It's a logic game with a time limit, specifically designed with patterns, tricks, and traps. Knowing the content is just the price of admission. Winning the game requires strategy. Let's get concrete. Think about the SAT reading section. You do a practice passage on Khan Academy. You get a question wrong. What happens? Khan gives you a brilliant text explanation. It highlights the exact lines in the passage that support the correct answer and explains why the other choices are incorrect. This is fantastic for reviewing a specific question. It reinforces the content, but it doesn't fundamentally change how you approach the passage in the first place. A strategic approach, the personal trainer approach, doesn't just focus on the what, it rebuilds the how. It asks, did you read the blurb at the beginning to contextualize the passage? Did you spend the first 60 seconds mapping the passage, identifying the main point of each paragraph so you had a mental GPS before you even looked at a question? When you saw a words in context question, did you physically cross out the word in the passage and try to insert your own word before looking at the trap-filled answer choices? For paired evidence questions, did you have a system? Did you start with the evidence choices first, finding the one that most directly answered the question and then match it back? Or did you just bounce back and forth, wasting precious minutes? These aren't content issues. You could have a PhD in literature and still get these wrong under pressure if you don't have a system. This is about building a repeatable, efficient process for dismantling any passage the College Board throws at you. Khan gives you the autopsy report on a failed question. A strategist teaches you the combat tactics to win the battle in real time. Now let's look at the writing and language section. Again, Khan Academy is an absolute beast for drilling the rules. Comma splices, subject-verb agreement, pronoun clarity. It has endless drills to hammer these concepts into your brain. If your weakness is pure grammar, there is no better tool. But what about the 45 to 50% of writing questions that aren't about grammar? I'm talking about the rhetorical skills questions. The ones that ask you to add a sentence here, or delete this underlined portion, or which choice most effectively sets up the main point of the paragraph. These aren't grammar questions. They're logic questions in disguise. Getting these right requires a completely different skill set. A strategist teaches you that for an add/delete question, your first step is always to define the core purpose of that specific paragraph in 5 words or less. Then you evaluate the sentence in question. Does it directly support that core purpose, or is it a distraction? Khan's explanation will tell you that it was irrelevant. A strategist teaches you the process for identifying irrelevance on your own every single time. For sentence placement questions, a strategist teaches you to ignore the confusing sentence itself at first, and instead look for the logical clues in the surrounding sentences. Transition words like however or therefore, or pronouns like this and they that must refer to something that came immediately before. It turns a guessing game into a methodical search for clues. This is the next level. It's moving from being a student of grammar to becoming a professional editor, which is what the writing section is actually testing. And then there's the math section. This is where the distinction becomes a life or death situation for your score. Khan Academy's curriculum is flawless. It will teach you the math. It will take you from Algebra 1 all the way through the advanced concepts you need. If you don't understand a topic, its videos and exercises are the gold standard. But the SAT is not your high school math final. Your high school final wants to know if you can show your work and follow the proper, multi-step algebraic process. The SAT doesn't care how you get the answer. It only cares that you get the right one and that you do it fast. This is where strategy becomes your superpower. Let's take a classic algebra problem with variables in the question and variables in the answer choices. The textbook method that Khan Academy will rightfully teach you is the proper algebraic manipulation. But the strategic method, the personal trainer method, is to ask, why wrestle with abstract variables? Just pick your own numbers. Let x equals 2 and y equals 3. Solve the problem to get a simple numerical answer. Then plug x equals 2 and y equals 3 into the answer choices to see which one matches your result. It's faster, it's safer, and it bypasses all the complex algebra where you might make a tiny mistake. Or what about geometry problems? A strategist trains your eye to instantly recognize 3, 4, 5 right triangles and their multiples, or the 30-60-90 and 45-45-90 patterns, turning a 2-minute calculation with the Pythagorean theorem into a 5-second recognition problem. What about those scary-looking word problems in the no calculator section? Often the fastest way is to work backwards. Take the numerical answer choices and plug them back into the problem until you find the one that works. This isn't cheating. This is understanding the design of the test. The SAT is a multiple choice test, which means the right answer is always staring you in the face. Using the answer choices to your advantage is a fundamental strategy. Khan Academy gives you the hammer, the saw, and the nails, all the essential tools. But a strategist is the master carpenter who shows you the clever jigs, the secret techniques, and the efficient blueprints to build a masterpiece under a brutal deadline. Khan ensures you know the math. A strategist ensures you can beat the test. So we see a clear pattern emerging. Khan Academy is the world-class library and gym. It provides the foundational knowledge and the raw practice material. And it is an indispensable part of any serious prep plan. But it primarily focuses on reviewing what went wrong after the fact. It's a reactive tool. The next level of preparation, the one that separates the 1300s from the 1500s, is proactive. It's about building a strategic framework, a set of systems, processes, and mental models for every section and every question type, so you can perform with peak efficiency and accuracy when the clock is ticking. It's about having a coach who can diagnose not just that you got a question wrong, but the flawed habit of thinking that led you to get it wrong, and then give you a new, better habit to replace it. Khan Academy can show you your weaknesses on a dashboard. But a strategic approach is what gives you the tailored workout plan to systematically turn those weaknesses into strengths. The question then becomes, if Khan Academy is the foundation, what does the rest of the skyscraper look like? If the strategic layer is so critical, where on earth do you find it? Well, the hunt for that strategic layer is one of the most frustrating journeys a student can go on. You type how to improve SAT score into Google, and you're hit with a tidal wave of conflicting advice. You see articles promising to hack the test, forums filled with anonymous users claiming they jumped 300 points overnight using one weird trick, and 1,000 different companies all screaming that their proprietary method is the only one that works. It's a jungle of misinformation, designed to prey on your anxiety. But the truth is, the answer isn't some secret hack. It's a system. It's a structured approach that sits directly on top of the foundation that Khan Academy provides. Think of your SAT preparation not as a single block, but as a pyramid. At the very bottom, the wide, unshakable base, is what we'll call the content and practice layer. This is Khan Academy and the official College Board practice tests. It's the raw material. It's the thousands of bricks and tons of steel needed to build our skyscraper. This layer gives you the what topics are on the test and what the questions look like. It's non-negotiable. You cannot build a high score without this foundation. But a pile of bricks is not a building. You need a blueprint. You need an architectural plan. That's the second layer of the pyramid, the one that sits right on top of the base. This is the strategic layer. This layer isn't about what to study. It's about how to think. It's the layer that teaches you the patterns, the logic, and the very language of the SAT. It's the blueprint that tells you how to assemble all those raw materials from Khan Academy into a coherent, powerful structure. This is the layer that Khan Academy, by its very design, cannot provide. So, where do you find the materials for this crucial strategic layer? They come primarily from a handful of hyper-focused, expertly crafted resources. Let's break it down section by section. For the math section, the problem with Khan Academy is that it teaches you procedures, not principles. You get a quadratic equation question wrong, and the explanation will walk you through the steps to solve that specific question. What it doesn't do is spend 10 pages exploring the entire concept of quadratic equations as they appear on the SAT. It doesn't show you the 3 or 4 different ways a quadratic can be tested, from factoring to the quadratic formula to interpreting the vertex in a word problem. It doesn't teach you the strategic shortcuts, like when to backsolve from the answer choices or when to plug in your own numbers to make an abstract problem concrete. To get this strategic math layer, you need a resource built for exactly that purpose. The gold standard here, for years, has been the College Pandas SAT Math textbook. This book is not just a collection of problems. It's a decoder ring for the SAT Math section. It organizes the entire test into discrete chapters, like rates, exponents, or circles. Within each chapter, it doesn't just give you formulas. It teaches you the theory behind the math and, most importantly, the patterns in how the SAT asks questions about that theory. It shows you the common traps, the clever workarounds, and the underlying logic. After you read the College Panda chapter on, say, triangles, you don't just know the Pythagorean theorem. You understand how the SAT combines it with other concepts, how they disguise it in word problems, and the 3 most common ways they'll try to trick you. It's the architectural plan for the math section. For students looking for an even deeper well of practice with a strategic edge, there are platforms like UWorld. Think of it this way. If Khan Academy is the free public gym with all the basic equipment, UWorld is the premium gym that comes with a team of personal trainers. Its key feature is a massive bank of questions that are often slightly harder than the real thing. But the true magic is in its explanations. They are unbelievably detailed. They don't just show you the right answer. They explain step by step the most efficient mathematical path. Then they explain the concept behind the question in detail. And crucially, they explain the logic behind each wrong answer choice, showing you the exact trap the test makers set for you. Using a tool like this builds an entirely different kind of mental muscle. You stop just solving problems and start deconstructing them. Now for the reading and writing section. This is where the need for a strategic layer is even more profound. Let's be blunt. You cannot master the SAT writing section by just doing practice questions on Khan Academy. You might see some improvement, but you will hit a hard ceiling. Why? Because the SAT writing section is not an English test. It's a logic game. There are approximately 18 distinct grammar and punctuation rules that are tested over and over again. Khan Academy will show you that you made a mistake with a comma, but it won't give you a unified, systematic framework for all comma usage on the entire test. The solution here is, without question, Erica Meltzer's The Ultimate Guide to SAT Grammar. This book is legendary for a reason. It does for the writing section what College Panda does for math. It takes the entire test, breaks it down into a finite set of rules and concepts, and teaches you a system for identifying and solving them. After working through this book, you stop looking at a question and thinking, which one sounds best? Instead, you look at it and think, okay, the answer choices are all variations of punctuation. This is a stop punctuation versus go punctuation question. The clause before the punctuation is independent. The clause after is dependent. Therefore, I cannot use a period or a semicolon. The answer must be C. It turns a fuzzy, intuitive process into a cold, hard, logical one. That is the essence of strategy. The reading section is the most feared part of the test for a reason. It feels subjective and impossible to study for. How do you get better at reading? Khan Academy's approach is to have you read more passages and answer more questions. This is like trying to become a better basketball player by just playing more games without ever doing drills. You'll get more tired, but you won't necessarily get better. The strategic layer for reading is about learning how to read for the SAT, which is a completely different skill from reading for school or for pleasure. You need a methodology. This is where Erica Meltzer's other book, The Critical Reader, comes in. This book teaches you a systematic process for approaching every passage and every question type. It teaches you to distinguish between inference questions and find the detail questions. It teaches you how to handle the paired evidence questions that trip up so many students. Most importantly, it teaches you the single most important rule of the SAT reading test. Every single correct answer is 100% supported by direct evidence in the text. There is no ambiguity. There is no what feels right. There is only what you can prove. This book trains you to be a textual detective, not a literary critic. It gives you the blueprint for how to find that proof every single time. So now we have our pyramid. The base is Khan Academy, the raw material. The second layer is these strategic resources, the blueprint. How do you put them together? This is where the magic happens. You don't abandon Khan Academy. You upgrade it. You create a feedback loop. Here's the new workflow, the system that builds the skyscraper. Step 1, you take a full-timed official practice test. Step 2, You grade it, but you don't just circle the wrong answers. You create an error log. For every mistake, you write down the question, why you got it wrong, and what the topic is. Step 3. This is the crucial new step. Let's say you missed 3 questions on dangling modifiers in the writing section. Before, you might have gone to Khan Academy and drilled that one skill. Now you first go to your strategic resource, Erica Meltzer's grammar book. You read her entire chapter on modifiers. You absorb the theory, the patterns, the common traps. You do all the practice questions at the end of her chapter. You internalize the system for solving those questions. Step 4. Now you go back to Khan Academy. You go to the dangling modifier skill and you drill it. But it's different now. You're not just guessing. You're applying the system you just learned. You're using Khan Academy not as a teacher, but as a sparring partner to practice the techniques you learned from your real coach. You do this for every single mistake. Got a math question on circle theorems wrong? Go to the College Panda chapter on circles, master it, and then drill it on Khan. Struggling with main idea questions in reading? Go to the critical reader, learn the methodology, and then apply it to Khan Academy passages. This process transforms your studying from a passive, repetitive exercise into an active, targeted, and incredibly efficient system for improvement. You are no longer just piling up bricks. You are taking your architectural plans, and you are systematically, intelligently building your skyscraper one strong, perfectly placed floor at a time. This combination of foundational practice and strategic understanding is what separates students who are stuck from students who are soaring. But even with the perfect blueprint and the best materials, a skyscraper can still fail if it's built on a shaky timeline, or if the construction crew panics under pressure. So we have the content and now we have the strategy. But what about the clock? How do you execute all of this complex thinking under the intense, crushing pressure of a timed exam without your mind going blank? And what about the mental game? Because for so many students, the biggest score killer isn't a misplaced comma or a forgotten formula. It's a lack of confidence on test day. This is the silent killer of high scores, the invisible wall that separates students who know the material from students who ace the test. And it's the single biggest area where relying solely on Khan Academy can leave you dangerously exposed. Let's break down why. First, let's give credit where it's due. Khan Academy does build a certain type of confidence. Every time you level up a skill, every time you see that satisfying proficient badge pop up, you get a little dopamine hit. It's tangible proof of progress. You're seeing the bars fill, the percentages climb. You're going from getting 1 out of 4 questions right on inferences from a text to nailing 4 out of 4. That feels good. It's a form of positive reinforcement that tells your brain, hey, I can do this. I'm getting smarter. This is crucial for motivation, especially in the early stages. It's what keeps you coming back day after day. It builds what I call foundational confidence. You believe you can learn the material because the platform is showing you that you are, in fact, learning the material. But here's the problem. The confidence built on a self-paced, low-stakes platform is incredibly fragile. It's like a meticulously built sandcastle, beautiful and impressive in calm weather, but the first big wave of real-world pressure turns it to mush. What Khan Academy can't replicate, what no solo learning platform truly can, is the psychological gauntlet of the official SAT. Think about it. When you're on Khan Academy, you are in complete control. You're likely in your bedroom, maybe with music on. You get a hard question? You can pause. You can stare at it for 10 minutes. You can get up, grab a snack, and come back. You can click the Get a Hint button, a safety net that simply doesn't exist on test day. If you're having a bad day, you can just close the laptop and try again tomorrow. This environment cultivates knowledge, but it doesn't cultivate mental toughness. The confidence you need on test day isn't foundational confidence. It's what I call resilient confidence. Resilient confidence isn't built by always getting the right answer in a comfortable setting. It's forged by facing adversity and pushing through. It's the ability to get punched in the mouth by a question you've never seen before. And instead of panicking, taking a deep breath and saying, okay, I don't know the direct path, but I have a system. Let's work the problem. It's the skill of managing your own internal state, your heart rate, your focus, your self-talk, when the clock is ticking and the stakes are real. Let me tell you about a student I once worked with. We'll call her Maya. Maya was the perfect Khan Academy student. She was diligent, smart, and methodical. For 3 months, she lived on the platform. She maxed out every single skill in both math and verbal. She took all the official practice tests available on Khan Academy, right there on her computer, and her scores were incredible. She was consistently hitting 1540, 1560. She felt ready. She was more than ready. She was confident she was going to crush it. Then came test day. She walked into the testing center, a sterile high school gymnasium that was nothing like her cozy bedroom. The proctor was a stern-faced woman who read the rules in a monotone voice that put everyone on edge. The silence in the room wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, charged with anxiety. The clock on the wall wasn't a helpful digital timer on her screen. It was an analog monster, its second hand sweeping away her future with every tick. The reading section started. The first passage was dense, more complex than she remembered. She felt her focus drift. She reread a sentence 3 times. A flicker of panic. She looked at the clock. 5 minutes had gone by and she'd only answered 2 questions. Her heart started to pound. The voice in her head, the one that used to be a cheerleader on Khan Academy, was now a critic. You're too slow. You're going to fail. All that work was for nothing. By the time she got to the math section, her no calculator section, her brain felt like scrambled eggs. A question about quadratic equations, a topic she had a 100% proficiency badge for on Khan Academy, suddenly looked like an alien language. The steps she knew by heart were gone, replaced by a fog of anxiety. Her mind went blank. The confidence she had built so carefully over months had evaporated in under an hour. Her final score came back a month later, 1390, a full 170 points below her practice test average. Maya's story isn't an anomaly. I've seen versions of it play out hundreds of times. The problem wasn't her knowledge. Khan Academy had given her all the knowledge she needed. The problem was her preparation. She had trained for a scrimmage, but she showed up to the Super Bowl. She had practiced the content, but she hadn't practiced the performance. This is the core limitation. Khan Academy's official practice tests are an invaluable resource. They are the real thing. But the way you take them on the platform is fundamentally flawed if it's your only method. Taking a test on a computer, clicking bubbles with a mouse, in an environment you can control, is a different cognitive and psychological experience than sitting at a small desk, with a paper booklet, a bubble sheet, and a number 2 pencil, surrounded by the nervous energy of 30 other students. So, how do you build resilient confidence? How do you pressure-proof yourself so your brain doesn't betray you on test day? First, you have to change how you practice. Do not just take the practice tests on the Khan Academy interface. Use their tests, yes, but change the medium. Go to the College Board website, print out the official PDF of the test, and print out a blank bubble sheet. This is non-negotiable. The physical act of tracking your place in a booklet, finding the corresponding bubble, and filling it in takes time and mental energy. It's a skill you have to practice. You don't want the first time you're juggling a booklet and a bubble sheet to be on test day. Second, you must create an authentic testing environment. No compromises en Yelaschen. This means finding a 3-hour block of time on a weekend morning. Wake up at the same time you would for the real SAT. Eat the same breakfast. Put your phone in another room. The only things on your desk should be the test, the bubble sheet, 2 sharpened number 2 pencils, and an approved calculator. Use your phone or a watch as a simple timer for each section and nothing else. No pausing between sections other than the official 5-minute and 10-minute breaks. Be ruthless with your timing. When the timer for the reading section goes off, you put your pencil down and you move to the writing section, even if you're not done. This is how you simulate the pressure of the clock. This is how you learn to pace yourself. Third, you need to practice strategic failure. On Khan Academy, if you're stuck, the platform encourages you to take your time or get a hint. This trains a terrible habit. On the real test, some questions are designed to be time sinks. They're traps. You need a pre-planned strategy for them. A popular one is the 2-pass approach. On your first pass through a section, you only answer the questions you are 100% confident you can solve quickly. Any question that makes you hesitate, that looks long, or that you know is a weak spot for you, you circle it and move on immediately. Don't even try it. Then, after you've banked all the easy points, you use your remaining time to go back for a second pass and tackle the harder, circled questions. This strategy alone can be a game changer. It ensures you don't waste 10 minutes on a single hard question and miss out on 5 easy questions at the end of the section. It keeps your momentum up and your panic down. It's a performance strategy, not a content strategy, and it's something Khan Academy doesn't teach. Finally, you must review your simulated tests with a focus on psychology, not just content. When you're grading your bubble sheet, don't just look at what you got wrong. Ask why. Did you get it wrong because you didn't know the formula? That's a knowledge gap Khan Academy can fix. But did you get it wrong because you misread the question in a hurry? That's a pacing problem. Did you get it wrong because you panicked and guessed wildly? That's an anxiety problem. Did you get it wrong because you ran out of time? That's an endurance and strategy problem. For every one of these performance errors, you need to write down what you will do differently next time. I will slow down and underline what the question is asking. When I feel panic, I will take one 10-second deep breath. I will not spend more than 2 minutes on any single math question on my first pass. This process, high-fidelity simulation, strategic pacing, and psychological review, is what turns fragile, platform-based confidence into resilient, battle-tested confidence. It's the bridge between knowing the material and performing when it counts. Khan Academy gives you the bricks and mortar to build your house of knowledge, and it does that better than almost anyone. But it doesn't teach you how to make that house earthquake-proof. That part, that crucial score-defining part, is up to you. You have to be your own coach, your own ruthless proctor, and your own sports psychologist. Because on test day, the person you're really competing against isn't everyone else in the room. It's the panicked version of yourself. And that panicked version of yourself thrives on uncertainty. It feeds on unfamiliar problems, on questions that look just a little different from the ones you practiced. It gains power when your plan A fails and you don't have a plan B. So, the most important question we can ask is this: does Khan Academy prepare you for that fight? Does it give you the tools, the strategies, and the deep, unshakable confidence to defeat your panicked self when the clock is ticking and the pressure is on? The answer, unfortunately, is not entirely. And this is where we have to get brutally honest about the platform's limitations. This is where we move past the official partnership with the College Board and talk about what top-tier students and elite tutors know to be true. The first, and arguably the most significant, gap in Khan Academy's armor is its lack of a cohesive, overarching strategy. It is a phenomenal library of tactics, but a poor teacher of strategy. Let me explain the difference. A tactic is how you solve a specific problem. How do you factor a quadratic? How do you find the hypotenuse? How do you use a semicolon? Khan Academy will teach you these tactics one by one with endless drills. A strategy, on the other hand, is the art of winning the war. It's knowing which tactic to use and when. It's about managing your most precious resource on the SAT time. It's about understanding the test maker's mindset, recognizing their favorite traps, and knowing how to navigate the entire test as a system. Khan Academy doesn't teach you the art of question triage, the crucial skill of identifying time-sucking, low-probability questions and saving them for last. It doesn't give you a sophisticated framework for the process of elimination, teaching you how to spot the DNA of a wrong answer choice in the reading section. It presents each question as an isolated event. Solve this. Now solve this. But the SAT isn't a series of isolated events. It's a psychological marathon. A top scorer doesn't just know the math. They know how the math section is structured. They know that the difficulty ramps up, plateaus, and then ramps up again within each module. They have an internal clock, a pacing strategy that tells them exactly where they should be after 10 minutes, after 20. They're not just playing the notes. They're conducting the entire orchestra. Khan Academy gives you 1,000 perfect bricks, but it doesn't give you the architectural blueprint to build a fortress. It leaves you to figure that out on your own, and for most students that's a recipe for being overwhelmed. The second major gap is the why behind the what. Khan Academy's explanations are, for the most part, procedural. They show you the steps. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do that. And voila, here is the answer. This is fine for straightforward problems. But the SAT, especially at the higher scoring levels, is designed to punish procedural thinking. It's designed to reward deep, conceptual understanding. The test makers will take a concept you know, like the equation of a circle, and disguise it in a bizarre word problem that you've never seen before. If you only know the procedure, you'll stare at the page completely lost. But if you understand why the equation of a circle works, if you understand that it's really just the Pythagorean theorem in disguise, you can deconstruct the unfamiliar problem and solve it from first principles. Think of it like cooking. Khan Academy gives you a recipe. Follow these instructions precisely, and you'll make a decent cake. But a great chef doesn't just follow recipes. They understand the principles of baking. They know how gluten develops, how sugar caramelizes, how leavening agents work. That deep knowledge allows them to improvise, to create new dishes, and to save a dish when something goes wrong. Khan Academy makes you a recipe follower. To get an elite score, you need to become a chef. You need to understand the fundamental concepts of math and grammar, so deeply that no disguise the College Board throws at you can fool you. The platform's focus on procedural explanations often fails to build this level of mastery, leaving you vulnerable when you face a truly novel question. This leads us directly to the third gap, the passive learning trap. The very design of the platform, watch a video, do some problems, watch your percentage go up, can create a dangerous illusion of competence. Feels productive. You're checking boxes, you're leveling up skills. But watching someone else solve a problem is not the same as struggling through it yourself. The brain learns through active engagement and desirable difficulty, not passive consumption. True learning happens when you get a problem wrong, and instead of immediately clicking for the explanation, you wrestle with it. You try to solve it a different way. You try to understand the root of your mistake. You force your brain to create new neural pathways. Khan Academy's format, with its instant feedback and readily available video solutions, can short-circuit this crucial process. It makes it too easy to say, "Oh, I get it now," after watching a 2-minute video without ever truly cementing the knowledge. This is why so many students can get 90% on their Khan Academy drills, but then crumble under the pressure of a full-length practice test. They haven't truly learned the material. They've just become familiar with it. Familiarity doesn't survive the stress of test day. Only deep, hard-won knowledge does. You have to actively fight this tendency, forcing yourself to engage in active recall and deliberate, focused practice on your weaknesses, something the platform doesn't structurally enforce. Fourth, there's the static nature of its teaching. Zhao Khan is a brilliant educator, but he only explains a concept one way. His way. If that explanation doesn't click for you, you're stuck. You can rewatch the video 10 times, but you're just rewatching the same explanation that didn't connect the first time. This is a massive limitation compared to a good textbook, a small class, or a tutor. A great teacher can see the confusion on your face and reframe a concept from a completely different angle. They can use a different analogy, draw a different diagram, or connect it to something you already understand. They can adapt. Khan Academy cannot. It is a monologue, not a dialogue. For a topic like exponent rules or dangling modifiers, if you're not getting it from their single-track explanation, you have nowhere to go within the platform. You're forced to look for outside resources, which immediately proves the point. It isn't by itself enough. Finally, and this is critical for students aiming for the 700s and above, Khan Academy's approach to the reading and writing section is simply not sophisticated enough. For writing, its grammar explanations are solid for the basics, subject-verb agreement, pronoun cases, but they often lack the nuance required for the trickiest punctuation and style questions. But the real issue is the reading section. Khan's core strategy is find the evidence. And yes, for many questions, there is a specific line or set of lines in the passage that directly supports the answer. Learning to find it is a foundational skill. But this strategy is a blunt instrument. It's insufficient for the most difficult questions on the test, the ones that separate a 650 from a 750. These are the inference questions, the main purpose questions, the author's tone questions, the how does this paragraph function questions. For these, the answer isn't a single line you can quote. It's a holistic understanding of the entire passage, synthesized from multiple parts. It requires you to read between the lines to understand nuance, and most importantly, to systematically identify and eliminate cleverly worded trap answers. Khan Academy doesn't teach this advanced level of thinking. It doesn't have a robust methodology for deconstructing wrong answer choices, which is often more important than finding the right one. It prepares you for the straightforward questions, but leaves you under-equipped for the subtle, sophisticated reasoning that the hardest parts of the verbal section demand. So when you put it all together, a clear picture emerges. Khan Academy is an indispensable tool. It's a high-quality question bank, a fantastic progress tracker, and a source of free official practice tests. It's the digital equivalent of a state-of-the-art gym, filled with every machine and free weight you could ever need. But a gym by itself doesn't make you an athlete. It's just a building full of equipment. Without a training plan, a coach to perfect your form, and a nutritional guide, you're just exercising, you're not training. You might get a little stronger, but you won't reach your peak potential. Khan Academy is the gym. It gives you the what, the problems, the drills, the content. But it's largely missing the how and the why. The expert strategy, the deep conceptual frameworks, and the personalized feedback that turns raw effort into a high score. To get that, you have to look beyond the platform. You have to become your own head coach and strategically supplement Khan Academy to fill in these critical gaps. The question is, how do you do that? What does that hybrid system actually look like? Let's build that system right now. Forget thinking of yourself as just a student following a program. From this moment on, you are the architect of your own success, and Khan Academy is simply one of your most powerful tools. This hybrid approach, this COM+ method, is built on a 5-step cycle of diagnosis, analysis, targeted practice, strategy acquisition, and repetition. Step 1 is the diagnostic foundation. And I know what you're thinking, Khan Academy has a diagnostic test. We are not going to use it. Not first. Your journey begins with a trial by fire. You need to download the official Bluebook app from the College Board, or find one of their official, paper-based practice tests if you have paper accommodations. You are going to take a full-length, officially released practice SAT under real-timed conditions. This is non-negotiable. Find a quiet Saturday morning. Tell your family not to bother you. Put your phone in another room and set a timer. You need to experience the full pressure, the mental fatigue, the pacing challenge of the real exam from day one. Why? Because we need a pure, unadulterated baseline. We need to know exactly where you stand without any help or hints. This first score isn't a judgment. It's just data. It's the "you are here" marker on the map to your goal score. Step 2 is the deep dive analysis. I call this the test autopsy. This is where you transform from a test taker into a detective. Getting a question wrong is meaningless without understanding the why behind the mistake. So you're going to print out your score report, or open it on your screen, and you are going to categorize every single question you got wrong. And I mean every single one. You'll need a spreadsheet or a notebook, and you'll label each error with one of 4 categories. Category 1, the careless error. This is the most frustrating one. You knew the material, you knew how to solve it, but you made a dumb mistake. You added when you should have subtracted. You solved for x when the question asked for 2x. You misread "which of the following is not" as "which of the following is." These are points you're giving away for free. Category 2, the content gap. This is a true knowledge deficit. You looked at a question about trigonometry, and your mind went blank. You saw a grammar question about semicolons and had absolutely no idea what rule to apply. This is an honest mistake. You simply haven't learned or mastered the material yet. Category 3, the strategy error. This is subtle but deadly. You knew the content, but you didn't know the most efficient way to solve the problem. You spent 5 minutes on a complex algebra problem that could have been solved in 30 seconds by plugging in the answer choices. Or you ran out of time on the reading section because you were reading every single word of the passage instead of targeting the questions first. This isn't a knowledge problem. It's a process problem. And category 4, the misinterpretation error. You understood the passage, you knew the math formula, but you fundamentally misunderstood what the question was asking for. You found evidence for an answer, but it wasn't the best evidence, which is what the question required. This autopsy process is the single most important thing you can do to improve your score. It's what separates the 1,500 score from the 1,300 score. The 1,300 scorer sees they got 10 math questions wrong. The 1,500 scorer sees they got 3 wrong from careless errors, 4 from specific content gaps in geometry, and 3 from not knowing a particular time-saving strategy. Which student do you think is going to have a more productive week of studying? Now we move to step 3, the targeted attack with Khan Academy. Armed with your autopsy report, you now approach Khan Academy not as a student but as a surgeon. You ignore their generalized recommendations for a moment. You are in control. For every single error you labeled as a content gap, you will use the Khan Academy search bar to find that exact skill. If you missed a question on circle theorems, you will go to the circle theorems unit and you will grind those practice problems until you hit level 4 proficiency. You will watch the videos, read the articles, and you will not stop until that concept is burned into your brain. This is proactive, targeted practice. You are using Khan Academy's infinite question bank to patch the specific holes in your knowledge that your practice test revealed. You are not wasting a single minute on concepts you already know. Step 4 is where we address the massive gap we identified earlier. Strategy acquisition. This is where you have to look outside of Khan Academy. Your strategy errors and your misinterpretation errors will not be solved by doing more practice problems alone. You need to learn the metagame of the SAT. This means investing in resources dedicated to test-taking strategy. First, get a highly regarded prep book written by a true SAT expert. Look for books that don't just teach you math and grammar, but teach you how to recognize question patterns, how to spot trap answers, and how to manage your time on a per-question basis. There are legendary authors out there who have dedicated their careers to deconstructing this test. Find them. Their books are worth their weight in gold. Second, use YouTube, but not for entertainment. Find channels run by elite tutors who post full-length explanations of official practice tests. Watch them solve the very test you just took. Listen to how they talk through the problems. How do they eliminate wrong answers in the reading section? What shortcuts are they using in the math section? You're not just looking for the right answer. You're trying to absorb their thought process. You are essentially getting hours of high-level tutoring for free. This is how you learn the strategies that Khan Academy doesn't teach. You learn how to think like a test maker, not just a student. Finally, we have step 5, the feedback loop. This is what ties it all together and creates upward momentum. After 1 to 2 weeks of this targeted system, using Khan for your content gaps and external resources for your strategy gaps, what do? You go back to step 1. You take another full, timed official practice test. Then you go back to step 2. You perform another autopsy. What happened? Did your score go up? Where are you still making mistakes? Maybe those content gaps in algebra have now turned into careless errors. That's fantastic. It means you learned the material but now need to focus on slowing down and checking your work. Maybe you're still running out of time on the reading section. That tells you to spend the next 2 weeks focusing exclusively on reading strategies from your prep books and YouTube mentors. This cycle test, autopsy, targeted practice, repeat is the engine of score improvement. It's the coaching system you build around Khan Academy. It transforms Khan from a passive learning platform into an active and essential part of your personalized training regimen. So let's go back to the original question. Is Khan Academy enough for SAT prep? The answer is an emphatic no. But that's the wrong question. It's like asking if a state-of-the-art gym is enough to become a world-class athlete. Of course not. You need a training plan, a nutrition guide, a coach, and the discipline to execute. Khan Academy is the best free gym in the world. It has every piece of equipment you could ever need. But it is not the complete system. It will not be your coach. It will not analyze your weaknesses with the depth you require. It will not teach you the high-level strategy needed to beat the test itself. That job belongs to you. You have to be your own head coach. You have to build the system. You have to take the raw data from your practice tests, perform the deep analysis, and then deploy your resources. Khan Academy for content, books, and videos for strategy with surgical precision. Stop asking what your prep materials can do for you and start taking control of your own process. The path to a top score isn't about finding a single magic resource that does everything. It's about having the maturity and the discipline to build a system where each resource plays a specific strategic role. The question was never really about whether Khan Academy is enough. The real question is, are you willing to build the system that makes it an indispensable part of your success? The answer to that is entirely up to you.